Here we go. What determines the decisions that we make? And why is that an important question? In this conversation, we are going to go over what happens at an unconscious level that determines the questions that we make and what determines how easily and effective and committed we are to our decisions. Because there's decisions that you've made in your life that you're way more committed to than what you believe you are. And in this conversation, I am going to be revealing some of the stuff that I've been revealing in my Mastering Potential masterclass because I want to do everything I can to create as many potentializers as possible. Okay. So, why do you decide what you decide? What is it inside of you that determines the decisions that you make? What is it inside of you that makes you change your decision? What is it that makes you feel reluctant about making decisions? All of these are very, very, very important questions because the reason you are where you are at in your life right at this moment is because of all of the decisions that you have made, right? Most of them are been unconscious because you don't really understand what's going on inside of you to make the decisions that you've made up until this point. And what I'm going to share in this conversation could literally be the thing that changes everything for you because what we're going to be talking about in this conversation is some of the stuff that has literally 100x my income, like what I made hourly, what has taken some of my clients from $15,000 a month to $175,000 a month, right? Because the difference between $15,000 and $175,000 is decisions, right? And why we end up in the relationships that we end up are decisions. Why we have reluctancies in different domains of our life is based on decisions that we have made without our lives. And I've shared this. If you've watched me over the years, you've noticed that I've said this many, many times, is that, hey, Alberta, Canada, welcome. I'm glad you're here, Miles. It's always good to see you. That 75% of what you know in your entire lifetime was by the age of 5. Okay. Now, I would encourage you to, not yet, but go to masteringpotential.com and sign up for the master workshop I'm going to be teaching here, because I go over in great detail of how all this comes to be at an unconscious level. See, friends, at the age of 35, 95% of our life is unconscious. I mean, think about that. By the age of 35, 95% of your life is unconscious, which means it's all automatic, it's running by default. It's running by programs. One of my favorite quotes is, if we do not make our unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate, right? I'm here to create potentializers. Potential means to actualize possibility. Now, of course, that could be potential of destroying your life, which I got a PhD in, self-proclaimed PhD, because one day I woke up in the hospital and I had almost succeeded in taking my life. And then I got told that I found out that my sister was across the street fighting for her life. That was like one of the bottom moments of my life. And I recognized that I created that. I created that. And it's all the decisions that I had made up till then that had created what I had almost my greatest failure. It's my greatest failure because back then I didn't want to live to be 25 years of age, coming up on my 56th birthday. Right. So you can decide to change your life. Now, I just celebrated 32 years of being sober. The reason I did that is because of a decision I made. I made a decision that I wanted a better quality of life. Because of that, I've been committed to that and have like radically changed my life on so many levels. Like I've done about, I don't know, can't quantify it on how different things that I've changed, but you don't get where I'm at from where I came from unless you've done massive, massive, massive transformation. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying this is what's possible for you, right? Like I've spent many, many years suicidal. I've just been through it, right? But understanding, here's the question: what determines the decisions that you make? Because I've already laid out why being able to understand the consequences of decisions are important, but what determines the decisions that you make? And it's a lot deeper than what you think it is, right? What is it that causes us to be reluctant about making decisions, right? Let's just start there. Like, why do we have reluctancies around making decisions? One is because we have this wonderful thing called an ego, and our ego does not like to be wrong. So if you make a decision that doesn't turn out the way well, you or your environment thinks it should turn out, guess what's going to happen, right? Possibly you are going to experience humiliation. Now, the reason you don't want to experience humiliation is because you experienced humiliation as a child. Go back to 75% of what we know is by the age of 5, right? So when we have humiliation happen as a child, we do not ever want to experience that again. And this provides us with one of the greatest opportunities of our lives, right? Like us learning to love into the pain of being humiliated, right? Like kids can be mean, right? Like some of the experiences I had when I was in elementary school were horrific, right? And then by the time I was in junior high, I was just so full of anger that nobody, yeah, I was a crazy man. So looking at what times in your life have you been humiliated, right? And how has that impacted your ability to take risks, to step out into the unknown? Because this is some of the things that prevent us from stepping out into the unknown, is because we don't want to be humiliated, right? When we are humiliated, that is the same consciousness of shame, right? And so shame isn't that I did wrong. Shame is I am wrong, right? Because we got humiliated and then our ego has to make sense of that. So it comes up with these decisions that, hey, you're an idiot, or you're no good, or who do you think you are? Don't you dare ever do that again. What's wrong with you? All of these things are, or you should be ashamed of yourself. How many of us have heard that? You should be ashamed of yourself because you're a child and because you're curious and because you're doing things that children do. You should be ashamed of yourself. I mean, like, really think about that. Now, whoever said that, I promise you, they heard the same script. And what they're doing is they're accessing what comes naturally for them. Naturally is not, which was conditioned for them to say. So all of these impact our ability to make a decision, right? Like this is why we have reluctancies. The other part of it is how are you going to handle if what you decide doesn't turn out the way that you want? Okay, friends, what I'm about to tell you is literally this could be the conversation that changes everything for me from this point forward. Right now, just because I haven't charged for this video, right? And some of you know what I charge for an hour. I am not cheap because I take life very, very seriously. And I think that you should invest more into changing your life to step into who you really want to be, and continually investing into the things that keep you playing small. And until you understand what makes your decisions, you are going to be run by programs that are going on inside of you, right? So why did you decide to be with the person that you're with? Why do you decide to be with the friends that you're with? Why do you continue to stay in the situations that are not fulfilling for you? Why did you decide to get a divorce? Why did you decide to file bankruptcy? Why did you decide whatever it is, right? All of these things impact us in making future decisions. So when we are doing that, guess where we're living? We're living in the past, right? Because we don't know how to navigate ourselves into areas that have in the past caused us shame, which is associated with humiliation, right? So what determines the decisions we make literally are what we value at an unconscious level. Every single decision you make is value clarification. So I really want you to think about that. So to give you a real life example of that, if you have a pet and you have a child, that pet bit that child, you would know in a nanosecond, well, most people, depending on your relationship with your child, right? You would know in a nanosecond what the decision would be. Right? Like instantly you would understand the hierarchy of what's most important. It's going to be your child, right? And whatever you're going to decide to do to that dog, you're going to have to do. It's still going to cause you, it's going to be a decision that you don't want to make, right? If you care for your dog, right, or pet, whatever your pet is, it's going to cause you pain, but you know which one you value the most, right? So when we get into these areas of like, what is everybody going to say to me if I decide to do this, right? Like if I decide to leave a job, okay, and I'll give you a personal example of some of my own journey. When I used to be in corporate world and managed jewelry stores, had a very, very, very successful career in jewelry. Well, this is before I left jewelry completely, but I left a corporate job to pursue my career in becoming more of a designer, manufacturer. I had an opportunity to design a line of jewelry for a gold mine company here in California. So it's brought me to California. Now, most of my family thought I was crazy, right? Because I had a job with benefits. I had the 401k. I had the retirement. I had a promised career laid out in front of me. But most of my family was raised by parents, and no value judgment, it just is what it is, that had been raised by parents that were in depression, that you take what you can get, right? Like, be grateful for the job that you have. Now, here's what's interesting. How many of you are in a job that you're not really finding fulfillment, and someone comes up and says you should be grateful for it? Okay. Okay, without a doubt. Yes, you need to be grateful for what it is that you have. However, don't let your gratitude turn into compromising who you are, right? Like, we have more opportunity now than any other time in this world, in the history of humanity. We have more opportunity today than any time in the history of humanity, right? Like, the last couple of years, I've made more money than I've ever made, like significantly more money in the last couple of years than I've ever made. And it's because of how I set things up when COVID happened. How many people do you know were impacted by COVID because they made decisions to put themselves in places where somebody else was responsible for their financial well-being, right? They made a decision to put themselves there, right? And so every decision has a consequence. Every decision has a consequence. So if we start looking at values, and the reason relationships dissolve isn't sex, isn't money, it's because of communication. And what determines how we communicate, again, is a reflection of what we really value, right? And most relationships don't even, most people in relationships don't even know what they really value, right? I didn't know until I started looking at all this stuff, right? You have 6 different domains in your life. You have relationship, family, career, health, personal development, and spirituality. And so being able to, someone's asking, am I on? Yeah, I'm on. I don't know who's saying that, but yeah, I'm on. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Is understanding that each one of them have different domains. So if you're in the context of career, what you want to do is be able to find what it is that you really value in the context of career. And this is why most people they can't invest themselves completely into something because they don't truly understand what it is that they value. So you have 2 people in a relationship, they have different values, and they're communicating from these values, and they're doing this, and they're making decisions. And then what they do is they project what they have going on inside of them onto their partner. And then they wonder why the relationship goes in the direction that it goes, is because we are operating unconsciously, right? And this is why it's so important for you to start looking at, what do you really value in life? Like, everybody's heard it. Know your why. Know your why. Create a why that makes you cry. Okay, cool. Without a doubt. It's supportive. It is a mechanism that will get you to look at what's important to you in your life, because you're looking at what you value at that point, right? But not real deeply. You're not looking at what is really, really, really important to you. Right? Like, most people, well, it's my kids. Okay, what is it about your children that you value the most? Right? And you just keep going down until you start recognizing and finding what that component is, right? Like, if you're doing a career for a child, who are you living for, right? And now most people have justified playing small because they want to, because it's the honorable thing to say for your children. But the thing is you're teaching your children to do the exact same thing, rather than teaching your children how to be interdependent, right? If you teach your child to be dependent on you, you're just creating atrophy. You're teaching them how not to be resourceful within themselves. If you do too much, you're teaching them not to trust, right? So it's really looking at what is it that is running your life and creating and getting you to make the decisions that you make. How many decisions have you made that was in response to not wanting to be hurt? How many decisions have you made like that? Like, I have, like, that was most of my life when I was younger, when I really recognized how much of my life I was trying to control it from getting hurt. That's not living. That is not living. That is existing. It is putting so much energy into not wanting to get hurt, most of which never happened in the first place. But until I started looking at, what do you want in life? Okay. What do you want in life? And really understand it. Now, when I ask most of my clients or students this question, the very first thing that they come up with is what they don't want in life. Right? We're so focused on what we don't want in life, and guess what we keep attracting? What we don't want in life, because your unconscious does not know the difference between negative and positive. It doesn't understand the difference like that. That's your conscious mind's job, but it's your subconscious mind that's running the show. It's not your unconscious and subconscious that's running the show, right? So getting really, really clear in the different domains of your life. So like the 6 different domains I mentioned, what is important to you in each one of those domains? What's important to you in each one of those domains? And then really looking at what is it? What are some experiences that I've had in each of those domains that really motivated me? Right. And just before you felt incredibly motivated, what did you feel before that? Right. And then the other aspect of it that we have to look at is this a towards and away from? Right. Are you moving towards something or are you moving away from a pain? So, like a lot of people that grew up in poverty, hello, they want to move away from what it is that they want so that they never experience the humiliation again. Right. Well, okay. The issue with that is that you start moving away from it, but then you get over here and you've lost momentum. So you've got to go back to what originally motivated you. This is why people's finances are all over the place. Right. And again, I've been down this journey. I've had huge success and I'd lose it. Huge success and I'd lose it. Right. Is because I had to keep going back to what I was familiar with. Right. Now look at the word familiar: family, liar. Right. Like comfort and illusion. Right. Like think about that word is profound. Right. So become familiar with the uncomfortable. The more you can become familiar with the uncomfortable, the more you're going to start looking at how you make decisions. Because, see, here's the other part. If you make a decision and you have this narrative about what failure is, right? So many people are caught up with failure, and failure is nothing but an illusion. There's no such thing as failure. There is no such thing as failure, right? This is what society has conditioned us to believe, right? Because society has taught us to believe and filter things through the eyes of duality. You either make it or you don't, and if you don't make it, you're a failure, right? We've been graded on a grading system all through school. The one thing you don't want to get is an F. That is the one thing you don't want to get. Why? Because you're humiliated, right? There's no such thing as a failure. It's because what does that mean to you, right? Like, what does failure mean to you? It doesn't mean anything to me, because it's just, to me, I look at it, failure is nothing more than feedback, right? But what we do is we make decisions to avoid experiencing the humiliation. But see, this is where the magic is, my friend. Where does the humiliation come from? Where does the humiliation come from? Does anybody care to take a guess while I get a drink of water? Because this is really, really, really important. The humiliation comes from your own scripts, right? So let's take, for example, because it's not going to offend you if it's not in you, right? So somebody, man, it used to be somebody give me a hard time about being bald. Oh my gosh, did it used to trigger me? It used to trigger me like crazy, right? Well, there's a lot more to the story. A lot of people don't know this just because they always see me on camera like this, but I've got a scar like this down the back of my neck, right? Because they had to wire my neck all together from my car accident, right? So people have seen that scar and was like, dude, what happened to you? Well, long time ago, back in the day when I started going bald, I was literally suicidal. Like I had people watching me. I was that tough shape. But see, the reason I was that way is because I was losing what covered up that scar. That scar was shame. That scar was shame because of what I did to my sister. Right? See, these are all decisions that I made. These are all narratives that I created. Today, I can say that car accident was one of the greatest things that ever happened in my life. Did I want it to turn out the way that it turned out? No, not at all. Did I want to hurt my sister? Not at all. Did I want to do what it did to me? Not at all. However, that is what it took to get me wake up, because I was so in denial of where I was in my life that I needed something like that. And unfortunately, that's what has to happen for most people before they start looking at the decisions that they've made that have placed them where they're at. So I'm going to ask you a question. How did you get here? How did you get where you're at right now currently in your life? How did you get here? What decisions have you made? Because our life is perfectly designed to get the results that it's getting, right? So how did you get here? What decisions did you make? And how do you talk to yourself about the decisions that you've made? See, and this is one of the interesting things is that we end up becoming, so we all have humiliating, shameful, hurtful experiences throughout our life. And let's just call it that we were victimized just for conversation's sake. Okay, we had opportunities, moments in our lives where we were victimized. But see, what ends up happening is that we end up becoming the perpetrator of that part of us. Like we end up victimizing ourselves more because we want that part of us to go away. And we make decisions based off this, right? But see, our opportunity is that we get to go back and love that part of us. Because, friends, who do you spend every moment of your life with? Who do you spend every moment of your life with? It's with you, right? So the more you have a rich, flourishing, joyful, fun, crazy, sexy relationship with yourself, the more enjoyable your life is going to be. Right. But see, what we do is we hang on to all these mistakes that we've made and all these failures that we've made and all these things that we do. Why? Why is that important to you? Because we were conditioned to do it. That's some of it, right? And plus, we get something out of treating ourselves that way. It keeps us playing small. So, what if you decided today to let go of all your beliefs? It's an interesting concept. Like, what if you decided today to recognize you are freaking amazing? Right? Like, for those of you that have had children, first time you look down in that child's eyes, on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being the most worthy, valuable, like you can't get any better, right? What would have been the worth, or what would have been the number that you would have given to that child? Of course, everybody's 100, right? Like that child's worth 100 to me. Well, as life goes on and things start happening, that child begins to believe that they're not worth that, just like we did. We ended up believing and making decisions because of certain situations that had happened in our lives that we came to believe that we weren't worth 100 anymore. And this gets to be the opportunity in our lives. See, we have been all conditioned to believe that it's arrogant and that it's self-centered and all this to talk about yourself as if you love yourself. But it's noble to beat yourself up, right? Really start looking at how you talk to yourself. Really start getting in touch with how you talk to yourself, because that is where you're going to start seeing why you make the decisions you make, because every decision you make is value clarification. What do you really value? So we don't get what we want, we get what we are committed to. And see, when we make a commitment, say we're here and over here is what we want to commit to, as we start moving towards what it is that we want to create, we start running into all the things that we have committed to that keep us playing small. Okay. So stay committed to what it is that you want to create. So what do you really value in life? Right. And then really look at what decisions have you made about what you want in life, right? Because all of these are the narratives that's keeping you where you're at, right? It's time for you to rise, my friend. It's time for you to rise. It's time for you to step into the most expanded version of who you are. It's time for you to get clear about what is it that you're afraid of? What are you afraid of losing? What is your anxieties? What is holding you back? What story do you keep telling yourself that keeps you playing the same story over and over and over? What keeps telling you of your worth? How worthy are you? What is your level of deservedness? How much value are you? Who determines how much you make? Right? These are all questions that gets you to start looking at ways that you can start breaking up the beliefs that you have that have kept you where you're at. Right? We all get the opportunity to evolve. The opportunities are always there, but opportunity goes to the ones that seize it. All opportunities multiply when you seize them, right? So if you want to learn more about this, I'd encourage you to check out the workshop that I'm going to be doing real soon. Just go to masteringpotential.com. I've got some really awesome gifts for you. So sign up over at masteringpotential.com. I'm giving away my life's work, making some amazing things accessible to you. So you want to get over there now and stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing these videos a couple more times, actually a whole lot more. And also join me over at the potentialzonegroup.com. Got an amazing community going on there, and we're creating lots of potentializers. And I just appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, or if there's anything that I can do to support you in expanding your life and in your journey, by all means, please let me know that. I love each and every one of you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And may you be blessed. May your life be fulfilled beyond your wildest imagination. May it be filled with magic. May it be filled with joy. May you have people come into your life that love you and support you and want you to achieve and create magical things in your life. Your environment is stronger than your willpower unless you raise your vibration above your environment, friends. So there's all kinds of possibilities for you. It's endless. You are the source of your life. So now, some of you are going to be challenged by that, and that's okay, right? You are not God, right? But God moves through you, divine, universe, whatever that means to you, right? Source what it is that you want to create. The how shows up once you commit to what it is that you want to create. So I encourage you to get clear about what it is that you want to create. Till next time, my friend, live like your life depends on it, because it does. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. And I'll see you next time. Be blessed. Have a great evening.